started with today's program, Beyond the AI Hype, Sanofi's 2025 Vision to Scale Training. I'm going to turn things over to our speakers now. Russ Summers from Quantified, our sponsors today, and Manny Chidambaram from Sanofi. Manny and Russ, thanks for joining us today.
Tim, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to jump right into it because we've got a lot of great content to get through here today and a short time to do it. But in case you don't know who Manny is, he's Global Head of Customer-Facing Learning and Development for Sanofi and has a tremendous track record in the industry, which is why I'm fascinated to pick his brain on this stuff today, because we've reached this point where AI has been in a total hype cycle. There's no argument. And we know that technology analyst Gartner literally calls how technology has adopted a hype cycle. And I think many of us are reaching a point of almost burnout on hearing so much about yet another AI point solution that helps in yet another way and may or may not be delivering ROI. And so what's interesting about that, when you look at Gartner's hype cycle here, is they place generative AI entering what they call the trough of disillusionment. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed or questioning, you're not alone. And yet AI simulations, which of course is what Quantified does for training, are very much on the rise. So really what I wanted to do based on this is take a quick pulse with a quick poll of the audience on where we think we are in terms of adoption of generative AI. And I'd love to know, and Tim's going to push this poll for us, are we excited about the possibilities? Are we expecting great results? Are we maybe a little disillusioned? We've tried some things and they haven't all worked out. Are we feeling enlightened about the potential? Or are we achieving productivity? So the poll is up there for you. Please click the option that best fits how you feel right now about AI and life sciences training. And while we give people just a moment to fill this out, Manny, how do you think the overall L10 audience is feeling about adoption of AI?
I think generally it's been overwhelming. Some organizations, obviously, Russ, are further ahead than others. But I think, sometimes just those two letters alone, I think just cause sometimes a response amongst people, right? It's either an excited response or an I don't know, I'm scared response. So it's still a visceral action. But as I said, some folks are further along the journey than others.
Your point that it's visceral is well taken. People very much have strong feelings about this right now. So very curious to see what the results will be. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, Manny, why we wanted to pick your brain on this topic today, is simply because so much of it has been point solutions. I want to get your thoughts on what the overall big trends will be driving 2025 and beyond. So, Tim, I don't know if we have enough results in to maybe go ahead and publish the poll, or if we need to give people just a moment or two to add a few more votes.
No, we're great, Russ. I'm going to go ahead and close off the poll. Everybody, thank you for sharing with us. And here are the results.
This is great.
This is good. It's nice to see that half the audience is on the positive side of this. I think they're going to really learn a lot. But I certainly understand we've got answers all across the board there. And so we've got a very diverse audience with us today, Russ.
Yeah, and that means we're all going through this. We're going through the same journey, but not necessarily in the same time. So let's sort of dive into the questions. And before we get there, just for a 30-second level set, we've been fortunate enough to work with Manny's team and others at Sanofi for, a couple of years now. One of the programs we rolled out with them was a virtual coach and virtual certifier for taking certain products to market and certification. And they absolutely were thought leaders in piloting this first with us and the results. Well, Manny, I'll let you tell me what you think the results were.
Well, the results turned out to be very, very positive for us. This was really a time-saving tool for us, Russ. One of the things that we did was we really wanted to, we did not have the bandwidth to be able to take trainers, managers, et cetera, out of their normal responsibilities to certify folks. And again, we had a large bolus of people to certify in a very short period of time. It would have literally taken folks multiple days off their calendar to do this the old-fashioned way. Using this AI-powered tool, we were able to save a lot of time. We were able to get everybody through the process, and we also got some great data back that was able to help our managers. And I know Sean just posted a question in the Q&A already with regards to how we can use some of the stuff with management, which we'll get into here in just a few minutes.
That sounds great. Well, I'm pleased to hear it was positive. So now that we've level set on what we've done together so far, I want to get your thoughts on where we go in 2025 and beyond, because currently we're seeing AI has automated and streamlined work for many L&D professionals. But how is it going to go beyond that to reshape the role of L&D in 2025 and beyond, Manny?
Yeah, Russ, this is what certainly me and my colleagues on the L10 and L10 board have been talking about now for quite some time. So this is an answer that I think this is a question that has to be asked every year, and I think the answer changes every year. So the current answer is that right now, I think most companies that are all in on AI are really focusing on and taking the mundane and administrative tasks that our trainings and our training departments have to do and move them to tools that can do them much more efficiently and frankly, much more effectively. I'm talking about things like, gathering feedback from surveys, even things such as generating workshops, even creating basic things like PowerPoint decks. There are so many great tools available where you can now feed clinical content and basically say, create for me a PowerPoint deck that highlights A, B, and C. And literally within, a minute, you basically have now the generation of a relatively good, probably 60 to 70% of the way there PowerPoint deck, which basically illustrates your story. And now you can just focus your efforts on customizing it as opposed to creating things from scratch, which you really should not be wasting your time doing. So things of that nature, I think, have already started to take place, and I think it's only going to get better and better as the weeks and months go by. So that's where I think we are today in terms of streamlined work, and I cannot wait for the day, and I don't think it's too far away, where our training professionals are going to be able to focus on what they were actually hired to do, which was actually strategize with their brand teams, move along marketing brand plans, and actually be in front of our trainees delivering content.
That makes great sense. I love that vision of moving from being sort of automating some of the simpler tasks to really growing beyond that. But that's going to affect a lot of things cross-functionally. And your role, Manny, of course, is highly, highly cross-functional. As life sciences organizations become more cross-functional, how do you see AI supporting the alignment of field teams, medical, and other teams? Is it a way to bring people together, Manny?
It certainly is, and we've already started to see the first vestiges of that over the last 3 years. I know everybody on the line, I'm sure your companies use some type of a CRM tool. That's very common in the industry. And right now, what we found historically is that medical teams, operational teams, marketing teams, sales teams, et cetera, sometimes don't know, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing because these systems don't do a very good job of talking to each other. And of course, we all have workaround systems and other communication mechanisms which gets around. Where AI has really done a great job is not only from a digital perspective, but it really has started to analyze the interactions that medical professionals have, sales professionals have, marketing professionals have, other operational pieces, and puts them together to figure out what the customer is actually optimally engaged in. And now what we've done in a lot of companies is created suggestion engines, which are completely powered by AI, which now tells a representative, every morning, hey, you know what? Based upon actions that happened yesterday, here's what we think the best use of your time today will be. Call on so-and-so, use this material, invite so-and-so. Those types of things have already started to take place. And as we've used these systems more and more, Russ, the systems are getting ridiculously smart very, very fast. So the suggestions are really starting to improve our efficiencies.
That's really good to hear. And that aspect of then getting everybody on the same page elevates it from tactical to strategic, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talk and excitement in the industry about the ability to hyper-personalize training because AI can do so much to bring data together and create a fit just like this suit that's just for you. And yet we're also aware that we work in a space that has strict requirements and, frankly, strict responsibilities for compliance. So I'm curious to know, how do you think about balancing those two things, the opportunity for personalization with ensuring that we are compliant and respectful of our customers?
MLR and compliance reviews, my favorite topic. Hours of my life I'll never get back. Anyway, listen, we know that everybody, including our medical, regulatory, legal colleagues, our compliance colleagues, are all doing very, very important work in keeping us on the straight and narrow and keeping us out of trouble. And so there's no question that these strict requirements are necessary. And we, of course, in the learning world, work with these professionals every day. I think I question the concept of hyper personalization when it comes to training. I think everybody on the line would agree that we are now in an era where customized training and just-in-time training is now the expectation, not just a luxury. And where AI has now done a great job of that is, giving people the information they need when they need it. So this concept of, having one training program for everybody, I think those days are long gone. But I think what AI helps us do is to develop appropriate personas within our organization. So again, within the sales force, dividing them up into approximately 5 to 10 different groups of individual learners each with separate needs. I'm not sure if we necessarily need to come up with 1,000 different training programs for 1,000 people, but we probably should be coming up with anywhere from 8 to 10 different programs that an AI powered system can then set up curricula and make sure that we're training things at the right time for the right people. I think, Russ, one of the biggest things that AI has really helped us do, as well as just digital technologies in general, has moved us from this concept of dumping everything in the kitchen sink into the training program in the first 5 to 6 weeks, and then saying, good luck, remember this when you need it. So this is, in that sense, these tools are helping us right now from a personalization perspective.
Makes great sense. And I love your thought on the cluster analysis of what's really needed and then deliver the programs based on those personas. So it makes great sense from my perspective. It feels like the past couple of years, we are moving from experimentation to broader rollout across organizations. And there's benefits to both, of course, right? Because when you're experimenting, you can test and learn on a small scale. But at a certain point, you do have to think about rolling out proven best practices across the entire organization. So what's your approach in 2025 and beyond going to be to balancing experimentation to stay innovative and on the cutting edge with ensuring that the whole organization is performing by rolling out those best practices across the whole team? How are you going to balance that?
Yeah, so Russ, I know that my senior management is no different than I'm sure the folks that are listening onto this webinar. Business continuity and interrupting business continuity is not an option. Business continuity is critical, and so having systems put into place that could possibly interrupt any type of business activity in the customer experience is frankly not even an option. So with that in mind, I think that rolling out these types of tools, it's best done when you have a high-performing team who's motivated to try and experiment with new tools and give you feedback. And this is true, Russ, this is not just true of AI and digital tools, but this is frankly true of any new rollout that you have of frankly anything. You want to try to make sure that you have a group of internal champions who have tried the tool, tried whatever it is that you're trying to do. They've tried to break it. They've given you feedback to improve it. You've now come up with version 2, version 3, version 27, and now you're ready for prime time. And when you're ready for prime time for a national, or in my case now a global rollout, now you've got 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 internal employees who've been on the systems for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and now they're able to give you testimonials and they're able to actually roll it out for you. I don't think learners necessarily always want to hear from the head of training all the time. They actually like to hear from their peers about how things are working, et cetera, and how their lives have changed. So when we rolled out a lot of the AI tools that we're currently using at Sanofi, and we rolled them out in the 2021-22 timeframes, In some cases, we did it very well. In other cases, we did not handle the change management piece well at all. And so there was a lot of resistance, a lot of naysaying, a lot of backtalk. And as you know, with AI tools, the IQ of the system is zero when it gets started. And so those initial days are really, really rough. The suggestions I talked about a few minutes ago are really bad. They're actually just out and out wrong. And so when you don't have a bunch of champions behind you who said, listen, this is where I was 3 months ago, but I interacted with the system and oh my goodness, did it change? And now here's my life today. That piece was missing when we initially rolled it out because we just didn't have the experience. And now with experimentation with smaller groups, we've got champions on our side. We've got much more improved systems on our side. And when we do roll out a new tool, the rollouts have been much, much better.
An interesting element of what you said fits with the concept that we are entering a more mature space in terms of AI. In that, when I ask how would you balance this for AI, your answer can really be summarized as, Russ, the same way you balance it for any business initiative. Let's think about change management. Let's think about people, process, and technology. And let's think, very importantly, as all our bosses care about, and we certainly do as well, about the business continuity, about ensuring that we're successful and we continue moving forward. So
yeah, it's funny because the more things change, the more they stay the same, Russ. I mean, we were talking about this way back in the day, and you and I think are old enough to remember when we moved from paper to laptops and laptops to iPads. And as technology continually evolved, right? Every time something new came out, as long as you took the time to explain to people as part of the change management process, and I think most of us on this line are aware of the change management process. You need to have awareness. You need to give people the desire to want to change. You need to give them the knowledge as to why, this is happening. Then, of course, you need to train them. You need to give them the ability to use the tools, and you need to reinforce it, the simple ADKAR method. And as long as you do that appropriately, I think most people are willing to go along for this fantastic ride that we're on with AI.
Sounds great. It makes perfect sense. We've heard there are always conversations about, is AI going to take jobs? Is it going to take my job? Is it going to take my trainer's job? Is it going to take my rep's job? And I'd love to know your thought on the future balance between AI-based training and human trainers. Is one going to augment the other, or will one or the other eventually dominate?
I'm looking forward to the day where I'm going to be trained by an avatar and never have to deal with humans again. I'm just joking. Look, this is a very touchy subject, Russ. Of course it is. And I was in the same boat. My mindset was in the same place a few years ago. And I totally understand that concept. And I understand that sometimes that fear. I would say this, now that I've been in this game for a few years, I will tell you this. I don't think human jobs in the world of learning, and I'm going to specify in the world of learning, are going anywhere. I think our jobs are going to evolve. I think our job descriptions are going to change. And as I mentioned before, I think a lot of the administrative mundane things that we've been doing are going to go away, thank goodness. And we are going to be able to use our training professionals for what they were actually brought here for, which was to add strategic mindset to the brand planning process, to have a seat at the table when budgets and brand plans and launch plans are being put together, so the training is actually a part of that. And then, of course, to design and then deliver on those programs. So that's where I think the human jobs are going. And from a facilitation standpoint, I see that AI tools are going to really help us in terms of coaching and that type of stuff, but the human coach, the human delivery mechanism in terms of actual face-to-face or Zoom training, I don't think that ever goes away, because I think one of the biggest assets that all of our member companies have is that their star employees who are now in the training department are the ones that our senior management wants their new employees and their existing employees to see and model. They don't want to model an AI bot. They want to model human beings. So I think our human trainers will be helped by these AI tools, but it's just only going to progress our careers. I don't think it's going to take our jobs. In the world of learning, that answer only applies to training world. It does not apply to the general population.
Your mileage may vary, and that's exactly right. And I love the sense that in learning, AI can really help empower the trainers help them move their certifications faster, as we discussed, and do all these other things to simplify their life and help them, frankly, be more powerful and more strategic contributors to the organization. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask us
Oh
for
boy.
just a minute to get wild here, because we're talking about predictions. We're talking about the future. And the wonderful thing about predictions is if you're 51% correct, you're a genius. And if you're 49% not so much. So I'd love to know, what is your wildest, most out there prediction for future use of AI in L&D, Manny? What comes to mind?
I watch too many movies, Russ. I watch too many movies. Wow, this is a dangerous question. If you want to go with most out there prediction, I am seeing a day before I retire where I think there could be the advent of an AI bot that is in your ear, that can give you that's listening to just like your smartphone does today, but it listens to everything that you're saying, and it's able to give you live coaching and live feedback. And if you're having trouble recalling a fact, if you need a suggestion in terms of what you're telling a customer, while you're with the customer, your iPad and the bug in your ear can actually go ahead and give you that live time suggestion. AI is able to do that right now. Right now, you have to go to a site or you have to log into something to basically see those things. But I see that a live tool being able to help you with a customer or help you with an account live in our futures here in the really near future. So that's my wildest out there prediction. I'm thinking of other scary things, but I don't want to scare our audience. So we'll just leave it at that.
Well, I like that one a lot. And that one's not scary. That one's kind of inspirational, because what it really means is, as a trainer, as an education professional, the help that you need becomes not just at your fingertips on your keyboard, but as you said, in your ear, in your phone, wherever you need it, at your point of need. So you don't have to think about it and search for it. It's just there to you to help you and guide you.
Yeah. And Russ, it looks like we've got a few really good questions on the line. So I want to make sure we save some time for those. So thank you for this. I'll just say this, I'm glad that everybody entered the poll the way they did, because it looks like we've got much more of a positive outlooking group with us today. And listen, you and your companies and the folks that are in your company and the legal and regulatory and compliance folks, you have the opportunity right now in 24 and 25 to shape the way your organization uses AI. And the CEO of my company has said many, many times, AI is not going to replace your job, but if you are not with AI, it's going to leave you behind. And so you just need to understand how you're going to interact with it. And I can just tell you, as we get into the questions here, we've invested a lot in AI for our particular company. We've just opened up 2 manufacturing plants, which are completely AI enabled. And in the old days, a manufacturing plant in our world could only manufacture one thing. And if you needed to change it to manufacture something else, you'd have to shut everything down and retool everything. It would take months. We now have AI plants. We're able to predict exactly what we need when, where the shortages are going to be and when, and we're able to change production lines within the course of hours as opposed to the course of months. And it's scary to watch this stuff, but the number of patients we're able to help because of this is also really enlightening. So what do you say we get into some questions, Russ?
Let's do it. Let's hit them.
All right. So we've got one here on the Q&A about how did we train the AI on what good looks like for the certification process that we worked on with you, as an example. And so I'll answer this question more generally and not just on our project. So training the AI bot on what good looks like has definitely come a long way in the last 5 years. I know that when AI tools were just first getting started, you almost had to train the bot to listen for almost like a script or certain words or certain phrases. And basically, you could game the system to pass your certification by just making sure that you said those key words. And it would just say, yep, you got everything that you were supposed to say. It's a pass. That's sort of like 90s style training where you basically had to memorize a script. We've come a long way the last few years. And so, it does take a few iterations with the bot to basically make sure that it's watching for the right things and giving it feedback. So the first time, the feedback is relatively basic, and then you say, you know what, I'm looking for these types of things, and then you train it again, It's actually, the training time is getting smaller and smaller, and the number of iterations and the number of versions we had to do was less and less. But by the time we were done, which was not that long, the feedback that we were getting was frankly sometimes better than what a human coach would be able to give. So Russ, I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
No, that's perfect. And that's similarly the arc that we've seen in terms of going from experiences that may have felt a bit scripted to truly conversational now in our product. And that's been one of the more exciting things, is learning to train it like that. And yes, as you said, you have to baseline it with some training materials and a few conversations, but the speed now at which it learns and turns that into an actual conversation has been just amazing.
Yep.
What do we want to get to next in question? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Manny,
there's a great strategic question here from Sean with regards to how L&D can use AI to move our departments further up the ladder with decision makers. And this Sean, I'm gonna tell you right now, my answer is going to be coming around the amazing data that AI is able to help us generate. So just as an example, I know in your question you talk about how many hours of development time can I save? And yes, those things can absolutely be quantified. But when you talk about development time, that all adds up to money. And so really making sure you quantify that in terms of dollars and hours and opportunity costs with your team. So instead of spending 250 hours, as you have in your example, developing this program, my team was able to actually do it in 50 because of AI tools, and we were able to then reallocate the time to do X, Y, and Z projects. So that's certainly number one. Obviously, dollars and cents always speak, so make sure that you quantify that. But when I talk about data, the other thing is when you do everything from level 2 and level 3 surveys and getting feedback, AI tools are able to brush through those survey results in minutes and give you really good feedback right now in terms of what the trends are in the surveys, where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are. The old days of Excel and trying to do it yourself are long gone. So those are some of the areas where senior management loves the data, and AI can help you today. And those tools exist right now. We don't have to go very far for that. I know most of you who use Zoom in your companies, Zoom has already built in its AI bot into the tool, which I'm sure many of you turn on for your meetings. It is incredible after a meeting now when the meeting administrator is able to, within 2 minutes, send you the meeting minutes and action items as were compiled by the AI bot. So that's all done now, and basically all the person has to do is just quickly peruse it, change a couple of quick things, add a couple of periods, and boom, the minutes are done. Those are the types of things we're able to save time on. That's what you need to quantify for your senior managers.
Absolutely. Prove the value. And the other thing I'll throw in on that, Manny, is we are very focused on ensuring that we prove the impact of training. That's why our name is Quantified, because our objective is to quantify the impact from that. And so doing that, the more that we focus on that, the more that we can elevate the role of training within the organization and truly make them a strategic function, ensure they keep and elevate that seat at the table.
Yep. And we got 30 seconds left. I'll just address one last thing. Sean, we do definitely agree with you that AI is a great practice tool. It observes things that a human coach cannot and helps the human coach then interpret those results. So could not agree more. Last thing, Jeff, you asked a question around compliance and how to get compliance to go along with this. I will tell you this, my experience has actually not been with the compliance and legal team. It's actually been with the privacy team. And to make sure that your privacy officers understand where the data is being stored, whether it be with an external vendor or inside your firewall, and then how long. Most AI tools don't need to actually keep recordings of things. They need to analyze it and they can delete the recordings. Those are the types of tools you want to work with. That's where the privacy officers come in. Most compliance officers, once you explain it to them, are actually not the biggest roadblocks for me. It's always been the privacy team. So I know we're at time. So Russ, we'll turn it over to you to close. Thank you.
All righty. Manny, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Everybody, thank you very much for attending. And it's been a great session. I'll kick it back over to Tim.
Well, Russ and Manny, thank you both very much. That was an excellent session. Folks,